Hi, everyone, and welcome to The Writer's Edge. I'm your host, Christy Stratus, and tonight we are talking about why authors choose to promote other authors and how they go about it. So before we get into introductions, let me tell you that this episode is sponsored, and it's sponsored by Fiction Atlas Press. So let me tell you just a little bit about them before we get started. Fiction Atlas Press is dedicated to helping their clients get the best services no matter what they're looking for. They provide a plethora of author services, and that includes editing, cover design, formatting, promotion, web design, and more. So really like anything you could dream of. They also publish quality books in various genres by authors they love. So thank you so much to Fiction Atlas Press for sponsoring this video. And now, as you guys know, even though we have some set topics, please do leave your questions in the chat, and I'm going to do my best to make sure that I get to them. If we don't have time, leave them in the comments section after. I'll put them in the comments section afterwards for you, and our panelists can go and answer them there. So before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell down below so you can see when we go live or post a new video. Let's get right into it now. I'm going to let each panelist introduce themselves, and then I will also introduce myself. So let's start with Katie.
Why do I always get thrown under the bus first? Dang it.
Everyone likes you.
Hi, guys. I'm Katie Solitis, and I am one of the hosts of Spilling Ink. We are a weekly web show interviewing authors, interviewing anybody in the publishing industry, and I also write paranormal fantasy.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And JD is next.
Greetings, fellow humans. I am JD Estrada, an indie author from Puerto Rico who currently lives in Atlanta because I apparently prefer pollen to sunshine. I write in multiple genres. I do a lot of stuff on social media. I have fun, and I work hard to improve on my high score in life.
Thanks, JD. We almost didn't get JD, so I'm like totally thrilled that he's here. Yay! And next is Joe.
Hello, everybody. I am Joe Compton, author of the crime thriller Amongst the Killing and soon to be released sequel, We the Moral Majority. I am the operator and owner of Go Indie Now. I am super excited to be here. If you didn't see my song earlier, go check it out on Facebook.
Awesome. And finally, we have Andy.
Hey guys, I'm Andy Peliquin. I am the co-host of the Fantasy Fiends podcast, where we discuss all things fiendish and fantastical. My co-host fails to get that fiendish part every time, no matter how many times I remind him. I'm also an epic fantasy author, and I love being on podcasts and talking, and I'm so glad to be back on The Writer's Edge.
Yay, thanks for being here. Okay, and I am, you guys know me, I'm Christy Stratus. I am the author of the Dark Victoriana collection, which includes the books Anatomy of a Darkened Heart and Lock and Key. And of course, as you know, I am the host of The Writer's Edge. I'm also on Wattpad if you are looking for some free short stories. And both short stories that are up right now are under 1,000 words, and there are more to come shortly. So let's start out with hearing about each of your platforms. You all use your platforms, whether it's an actual show platform or whether it's just YouTube or Facebook or whatever you're using. You all use it to support your fellow authors. So like, tell us what you typically talk about. Tell us where we can find you that you support other authors, and if you have like an organized format that you typically do. Anyone can jump in.
They already threw me under the bus, so I'm not going first this time.
All right, I'll go first on this one.
Okay.
I snaked it. Sorry, Joe. Okay, so my podcast is the Fantasy Fiends podcast. You can find it on Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube. We went with the platform of YouTube because it makes things so much easier to upload the content. You can just basically click a button and it says go live. You do that thing on air for an hour, and then it uploads it automatically to the channel. And then my co-host, Stevie Collier, he does all the work of actually downloading everything and putting it into MP3 format and uploading it to iTunes and all the other podcast platforms. And the Fantasy Fiends podcast is basically about fantasy. We talk about the genre as a whole. But instead of just delving into the story or the world building or the magic systems or things like that, we like to talk about the human elements, the actual themes, the deeper things that drive the story. So we've done on religion, we've done politics, we've done magic, we've done philosophy, basically everything that really makes people connect with the stories on a human level, whether it's the issues that the characters are going through or the things that we as an author have learned or experienced in our life to infuse those things into our work. So it's really delving into the creative process on the personal level, but then also looking at these different things that make fantasy such a wonderful and unique genre.
And don't you have a specific format that you do? Like you have sections, don't you?
Yeah, so when I created the show with my co-host, I organized this nice thing, okay, 30 minutes of this, 20 minutes of this, and then every time it just totally gets thrown out the window, mostly by Stevie, my co-host. But every time, sometimes we start off, we have basically 3 segments. We have an introductory segment where we talk about something cool, whether it's the latest fantasy movie or superhero movie, because I'm a comic guy. And then we go into the discussion topic for the week, which is it's my favorite part of the show because we get to talk about these deeper themes. And after that, we do a live reading of our guests' books. And that's another of my favorite parts because I love doing accents and voices and stuff like that. So we have fun bringing these scenes to life in a really fun way. And so, I mean, every week it's a new experiment, a new adventure, because we get to read some new author's book and come up with new ridiculous accents and voices and personas and have fun talking about the deeper themes that drive fantasy novels.
Do you read each book every week when you bring on a new guest?
We don't read the whole thing. We read a snippet of about 1,000 to 2,000 words. So it's maybe 15 to 20 minutes of the show.
Okay, cool deal.
It is a fantastic show.
It is. And you have to hear Andy's accents because they're awesome. They're really, like, you have to.
I'm looking this up afterward.
Their chemistry is undeniable, him and Stevie.
Yeah, it's true.
It's a weird bromance, but it just works.
I love that word, bromance.
How about you, Katie, then?
All right, I guess I'll go next. Okay. Spilling Ink was originally created as an effort to get the word out about other authors. We interview authors, but we expanded it to not just the writers, but editors, publicists, anybody in the field of writing and publishing, so that we can learn from their stories and help expand the knowledge of our viewers, which most of our viewers are aspiring authors or new authors who maybe haven't learned the ropes yet or are in the midst of trial and error when it comes to publishing. So each author that we bring on, or each guest that we bring on, we tend to learn from too, because everybody's experience is a little bit different. So when they tell us how they did something or why they did something, we've got a basis of comparison. Our viewers can see the differences. And especially when it comes to like marketing, we've learned so far that there is no one size fits all when it comes to marketing books. So the ability to see every different way to do it is really helpful to not only the viewers, but to us as the host too.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just hosting a show, you just learn so much. And even if it's on something that you don't do, like if you're not a romance author, but you interview romance authors, you end up learning a lot anyway.
Yeah, and it's really fun. I always say it's my favorite part of the week, because not only do we get to learn something, but we meet new authors. Every week we're bringing somebody new on, and it's kind of like expanding the family.
That's so nice.
I'll jump in because Joe, he probably has a huge answer because he's all about helping other people. His platform is all about that. The Godfather. First off, cheers, Mama Estrada. I do this for my mom pretty much every day. Cheers. I work in several platforms, and just deciphering what I wanted to do on each platform took me a while. And the only thing I have like set in stone as to how to support other people, apart from reviewing and recommending and telling people, hey, I read this book and it's good, which apparently it's hard. But apart from that, what I do are 2 things on my blog. My blog is jdstrada.blogspot, jdstradawriter.blogspot.com. It's called For Writing Out Loud, which is the same title as my new book. Oh my God. But what I do is Writer Wednesday and Driven, which are different interviews to people. First, Writer Wednesday. Writer Wednesday is me interviewing people. It's pretty simple. It's 10 questions. They're going to be custom made. They're going to be random as hell. And it's by invitation only. Some people have asked me if they can be on, and I've been cool with it. But most of the time, it's me reaching out to people and saying, do you want to be on here? Because part of the process is getting to know people to the point where I can write as random a question as I can. And in the for instance, Chrissy, I asked you what Dark Victorana chocolate bar or candy bar would have. For Joe, I think I asked him about what his wrestling intro music would be. Andy, I haven't had on my blog, and Katie, I just met. But other people, I like to do things like that. Obviously, I ask about their craft, how they do what they do, and why they do it. But to me, it's been really fascinating to dig deeper into the randomness of people, so that other potential readers go, oh, this person sounds interesting. Let me check them out. Not just your standard boilerplate questions, because anyone can do that. And part of the fun is getting to know people to the point where I go like, man, you got to know this person, not just read them, know them. And the other thing I do is Driven. Driven only has, I think, 3 or 4 episodes. That one is non-writer related stuff, because I honestly love reviewing pretty much anything, not just books, movies, music, either in a Twitter thread or on Amazon. But I like interviewing people and just getting to know them. And some people show some amazing passion in things that aren't writer related. And for me, it would be a shame not to support them in some way. Either they have a restaurant. Kyle Kubitz was the first one I interviewed. He actually does paranormal investigations like Ghost Adventures. I have another friend who was into fitness, and I saw them either struggling or that I just wanted to help them reach other people. So why not interview them and ask them, either random and wacky stuff or stuff that would get people interested in them.
Those are always such fun questions too. I don't know how you come up with them, but you mix like a couple of my interests, which is, chocolate and other things. It's a lot of fun. It really is. I'm
happy you enjoy it. And another thing is for the person that's answering the questions to have fun. And for me, a lot of what I do is to either get people to smile or have fun.
You should talk about your booktubing too, JD. You do a lot of stuff in that area as well.
Yeah, but I don't interview people or have them over. I talk about them. But I talk about people on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, on anywhere I can, because when you meet people and you either respect their craft so much that you want to share it, or you care for them so much, or as is the case with pretty much all of you guys, those two things interlace. Katie, I just met, so I can't speak to that point. We will interact. But when I recommend you, it's because to some degree or another, I care about you guys. And it's, you're the type of people that out of the blue, I'm going to write, oh, how are you doing? Just because. And, you get private messages for your birthday and stuff like that. And I write to a lot of people because to me, it's all about that human connection. And that's my approach. And some people reach out and read, other people's work. Another example of something I did was that I did a book promo for Humans for Puerto Rico, and anyone who participated when they won that raffle, I gifted them ebook copies or physical copies. And I don't know, to me, it's all about sharing the wealth.
Go on, Joe.
All right. So, all right. So my platform is Go Indie Now. It is mainly video production. I do videos and I do some things with my website, and I am very, very active on social media, as most of you, if not all of you, know that. My platform is, so basically the way it works for me is that I was so embraced by this incredible author community, and so just how loving and beautiful it was. And I have many, many friends in the filmmaking community because that's what I used to do in a past life and maybe a future life. And a lot of friends in the musician community because you just kind of intermingle. It just happens, you know, and artists draw to artists. And so my purpose was to bring everybody together. It was kind of a selfish purpose. I just wanted a place where all my friends could hang out for, you know, just one place. And so that's how Go Indie Now kind of got started, and it kind of blossomed into something bigger. And basically what I do is a monthly show called my flagship show, which is Time to Go Indie Now, which is basically like a 60 minutes format. You have 3 or 4 key interviews of indies that are doing the indie thing out there, and we highlight what they're doing and who they are and what they're about. And then I have review segments, one of which somebody is on this staff right now, who does a music review for me, Mr. JD Estrada. But we do different segmented review segments. We have audiobook review, music review, movie review. And then at the end of every show, I feature a short film. And so that's basically the format of that show. And that's the show that I started with. And then I got crazy and decided to do like hundreds and hundreds of different other shows. We have, I mean, I could take this entire hour up with what I'm doing. So I really don't want to do that because these people that are on this panel have some great things to say about the subject. So just real quickly, then I have a weekly show that I do on Facebook called This Week in Indies, which is basically like a news show. We have some segments in that. And then I have a coffee break show, which is kind of like what JD does in a certain sense. I'm not as good as JD, but just random questions to authors. And we basically feature, or to artists, I should say, indie artists. We basically feature them in and just them only in that one show. And then Indie Insights with Marnie Kate, which is completely produced by Marnie. She sits down and interviews the indie artist more in depth in her special and unique way. And it's a really great show. And then I do a live panel show once a month. Typically I like to back it with Writer's Edge if we can do that. It's a really cool dynamic that Christy and I have where we do that. And our topics are very similar and we talk about very similar things. So if you like the Writer's Edge and you've never seen Go Indie Now's live panel show, it's very similar. So, and that's me in a nutshell.
Definitely. I mean, Go Indie Now is such a hub for amazing talent and finding out about new people and all kinds of different things. I love all the different, like there's such a variety and I really enjoyed that too. It's very cool.
Thank you.
So most of us have chosen YouTube as at least part of our, platform. And so Andy delved a little bit into why we tend to choose YouTube. It is like you start with it. We start this, we do some amount of prep. I hit go, we talk, I hit stop, and it goes live, right? So that's what Andy was saying. And that certainly makes it easy, a lot easier than editing a video, which, Joe does a great job of editing videos. And I know Katie, that can be painful for
We're going to more of a live format now. We actually offer the choice when we book our guests to say, would you rather go live or would you rather have an edited video? Live videos get more initial views. So we're kind of like pushing people, go live, rather than do the editing every week.
Yeah. I think almost everyone has a live show here. JD doesn't have a live show, but you do sort of like impromptu videos.
I don't edit. That's part of my shtick. Basically, I want people to get a real sense of who and how I am, and if they go to a book event, they're gonna get some ums and 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 stuff like that. So why edit that out? Another really good thing about YouTube, it's free and there isn't a cap. I'm very limited. I wanted to do more podcasts in other platforms, but it's like you have so much space free, and after that you have to pay I don't know how much a month. And I go like, okay. And then YouTube is like, oh, you know, we won't pay you for it, but we'll just put ads before your videos.
I can tell you why I moved to YouTube if that's what you want to hear. If that's the question. For me, it was all about the connection, the personal connection. I think there's nothing like it on this planet. And I think if you're going to be a successful artist, you have to have a personal connection. You just have to. It's that day and age. It's the way that we work. We are all digital and we can see each other now. There's no reason why we can't. And my most successful ventures have been when I've done book festivals or book tours or been live in person with people. And that's when I've actually sold stuff. I made money doing that. And so it's kind of an extension of that in a certain extent, just like JD said. But moreover, I think if you get a connection with that person, if you get a personal connection, you feel like you know that person, and there's a certain level, not intimacy, but there's a certain level of familiarity that you gain with that person, and that person then you just become instantly more friendly because you know that person, you can see them, you can see what they're saying, and you become comfortable. And I don't claim to be an introvert whisperer, but I've seen a lot of people who've claimed to be introverts come on our shows and become converted to a certain extent, or at least become somewhat more open. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And I think that's why YouTube lends itself so easily to a lot of what all of us do, because we all want to connect with those people. And I think you sell better because you're connecting with people, and then people want that connection, because people are so guarded and jaded about, bots and things being, so crooked on the internet. And I think that YouTube kind of unveils that a little bit.
And automate it.
And it gives that personal connection, like when you're reading an author's interview. Yeah, I used to post author interviews on my blog. I still do occasionally. But they would never get much traffic because people would do, they'd click, they'd read a couple of questions. Oh, I don't know this guy. I don't know why I should care. But with YouTube, it's like I'm talking right to you. You're listening to me. You're hearing my voice, seeing my facial expressions, reading my body language. It's not like I'm in front of you, but it's as close as it gets without me actually invading your living room or office or whatever. So it's so much easier to connect with someone in a very real way. Not only the fellow author or the co-host or whatever, but also the viewer or the listener. And I've done my first podcast experience was actually with Joe. So Joe, you're the one to blame for the Fantasy Fiends podcast. Ultimately, the content that I put out into the world is your fault. But yeah, like Joe said,
I'll gladly take blame for that then, if that's the case, because that's awesome.
Yeah, I'd never done podcasts before, hanging out with Joe on one of his Go Indie Now shows, and I did it, and I had so much fun, and I realized I was talking to people. I wasn't sitting behind a desk, trying to sound intelligent. It was just a conversation about something that I found interesting, and so I love talking fantasy. When I go to conventions, I literally spend the entire time talking with people about whatever fantasy book I'm interested in or whatever is popular at the con, and then eventually get around to selling my books. And that's how I connect with people, and that's how I make sales. And so being able to do that through this platform of YouTube, it's why I chose specifically video and YouTube Live, because it gave me the chance to do everything live, and then I didn't have to rehearse or sound professional, because everyone knows it's YouTube, it's live. So you're going to make mistakes, you're going to sound ridiculous, you're going to say the wrong word, and that's totally okay. And so being able to use YouTube, but then ultimately uploading it to iTunes and Podbean and things like that, it really combines the best of both worlds, because now viewers who prefer video or who prefer to view it live, they can watch it on YouTube, check out the links and stuff. But if they're podcast listeners who have the various apps on their smartphone, or they listen on the go, they can download it there. So YouTube has really made things a lot easier to integrate with everything else. You know, they've got those automated share buttons to Facebook or Twitter or Google Plus or literally every single social network under the sun. They've also got a way to embed it in your blog or your website. And so it just makes it so easy. And that's one thing that very few platforms can offer. So I think that's why a lot of people gravitate. Sorry. See, like I said, live, you make mistakes, etc. They gravitate towards YouTube because they just make it so easy to do.
We just recently did that with Spilling Ink. We've been doing the YouTube platform for a while now. And we had a few comments saying that they wish we had a podcast. So my co-host, he went with Podbean, just like you said. And now we've got our podcast. So anytime we do a show, we take the audio of it, upload it to our podcast, and then boom, it's available for anybody who wants to just listen, which is beautiful.
Yeah, you just have to download the video from YouTube, or you download the audio of the video. You upload it to whatever podcast software or hosting you use, and it's done. It's such a simple thing, and the internet has really made that sort of thing so much easier than it ever has, which is why so many people, I think, are gravitating to podcasts.
Absolutely.
Whenever I read like an advice about YouTube, it's like either an article or it's an actual book, how to do YouTube like a pro. A lot of times they say, and they're not necessarily talking about live, they're like sort of leaving live out of it, which surprises me. And they're always saying like, have a script and it should all be written out and planned ahead of time. And to me, that's like, even when I do pre-recorded videos, I don't write a script. Like I'll do bullet points maybe if there's stuff I don't want to forget. But if you lose that feeling of it being natural and like actually speaking to someone, I feel like the point is sort of lost. And the other thing I wanted to say, Andy, on your show, I always really like the part where you guys, I like the whole show, but I like when you guys read from the person's book because it's like listening to a live audiobook, which is really cool.
And I love audiobooks. It's actually why I got into that, because I love listening to audiobooks. And I was thinking, okay, well, what's something I can do for my fans on Facebook? And it just naturally gravitated to, okay, I'm going to read my books live. I don't have time to record an audiobook completely, but at least I can read a part of my book, maybe, bring this character to life, explain what I was thinking, give them a chance to hear what he sounds like in my head as I'm writing him, or her, as it were. And so then when I was doing that, I was having so much fun with it. So I actually started promoting other authors' books, other authors who were in my fan group, like Joshua Robertson and Lillian Oak and ML Spencer. These guys, they were all in my fan group at the time. And so I was like, well, I'm just going to read their books. And it was so much fun because it was like these characters that I had never read before. I was able to bring them to life the way that I imagined them. And so when Stevie, my co-host, contacted me, he's like, I love this about your group. Let's do this. And so it was such an awesome way to translate that into something that we could do every week with so many different books. I think we're on almost our 50th different book. We're on our 50th episode coming up in the next couple of weeks, being able to do it. It's so much fun.
Congratulations. That's awesome. So we're all talking about how we promote other indie authors. And of course, none of us are mentioning that we're a little bit nervous or anything like that another indie author could get more attention than us, because that's not really a consideration at all. In fact, it tends toward there being no competition at all among indie authors. I'm sure that there's always an exception here and there, but for the most part, the indie author community is so welcoming and so like, let's cross promote, let's co-promote and all that kind of stuff. Why do you think that's the case for indie authors? Whereas, sometimes with other artists or artist group, it can be like, ooh, I don't want to promote this person if they're too similar to me because I might lose sales. Like I'll promote another historical fiction author. It doesn't matter to me.
People aren't going to buy one thing and not the other. If they like historical fiction, they're going to buy all the books in historical fiction. That's their genre. I think the whole reason the indie community is so welcoming is because we know that we started out with the scarlet letter above us. Indies were looked down on, and it was because of poor quality, poor editing, inability to get into bookstores. The cost to produce books was ridiculous. And as we all got better at it, it became easier to do. We shared our knowledge. Our books became better. They looked better. They became to the point where they can actually compete next to a traditionally published book. And you can't tell the difference if you look at a bookstore shelf. And it's all because we share our knowledge and we help each other out. We know that it makes us as a whole look better.
Well, for me, let me just put it this way. I don't mind supporting other people at all, especially people that I care about, because it's always time to go indie now. And, you know,
The hat and everything. Nice.
I don't mind if people say, you kind of do some things like Joe. But no. Seriously. I think part of it is that most of us, we find out that support comes from places that we don't expect. People say, oh, I think one of the first things that I say to anyone who's going to go indie is like, don't expect all your Facebook friends to buy your book. That's the first thing. And people really, they don't realize how true that is until it happens. And that's kind of a shocker for a lot of people. I went in knowing, I'm like, this is a losing battle. And then support comes from people that you don't expect it. And then you connect, and you connect for X or Y reason. And then you do a retweet, and then you share something, and then you read someone's book. And Christy, you're a great example that I can give in terms of my writer journey. Your book, actually, someone who read me, they won your book and Joe's book. And basically their favorite book from last year was Anatomy of a Darkened Heart, not my book. Question, do you think that I'm going like, they took the top spot from me? Or do you think I'm pumped up for you? Or do you think that I'm really motivated? And then when I saw that, when I saw Marinska's review, someone from the Netherlands, by the way, I shared one of my readers who's from the Netherlands. Very smart lass, by the way. I was ecstatic when I've recommended other people's books, and people send me either a DM or they send me the link to the review that they did. I feel like I did something good. You know why? It's not just because we're indie. It's because not only did I recommend a book that I enjoyed, I recommended a book that I enjoyed of someone I know. And it's not the whole quid pro quo thing. There's a lot of people. I think there's a caveat to make. There's some people who do the whole quid pro quo thing. There's other dirtier terms, but since this is sponsored, I'm going to keep it PG. That just, like for like, positive review for positive review, nothing constructive, nothing of worth. Honestly, it's all empty. It's all an empty M&M shell. It's like, it's not only crappy candy, it's pretty toxic. To know that something that I read and enjoyed, and it's from someone that I care about to a certain degree. Obviously, people here I know and I've known for a long while, and when I read them, I obviously promote with a lot of effort, because that's the other thing. Being an indie author, we know how tough it is to get a review, to get a sale, to get any type of attention. And, we have those bad days. We have those bad weeks. We have those bad months where we don't get a sale or people don't care about our work. That's something that's happened. And that's why I started off saying that we get support from places that we don't expect. My writer journey, and the people have read me from, it's so scattered. It's like, and people are really pumped up with what they read of me in Germany, like 3 people. And in the UK, there's actually a couple of people, and now in Australia, and in the Philippines, and Belarus, and India. There's a family that reads me in India, and that's one of the happiest things that I can report of my writer journey. A fellow poet on Google and Instagram and Facebook, her name is Seema Tarasan. She actually bought my book. She didn't know, since getting books in India is a bit more wonky and not as immediate as here, where you purchase a book and it arrives in hours. Depends on where you are. She had to ask her brother, and I'm not even sure if her brother read me, but she got the books. She got a poetry collection, and she got the Daydreams on the Sherbet Shore, which are middle grade short stories. Her husband took the poetry collection, and her son took the middle grade short stories. And she's like, I'm left without books. And I'm like, can I smile at your problem? And again, to have that type of support, you know that the more random you are and that connection and just anyone just caring, it's ridiculous how much of a difference it can make. And genuinely caring. It's not like, okay, I'm gonna bump you up so that you can butter me up. There's someone who's been trying and putting me on Writer Wednesday and Follow Friday for months. And I had followed on all platforms, but it was so insistent and so empty and so forceful. And so like, since I'm supporting you, you better support me, that they've got one platform left. And when you comment on a picture from my life with like, oh, that's awesome that you went to surf. By the way, I released my new book. Unfollow. And then you still see a comment and you go like, then you get a block. When you can have some, all the people that we meet, Matt. And we're all doing it for not the same reasons, but there's the same root. We're doing it because for some reason, traditional publishing did not appeal for X or Y. For me, I work in advertising. So basically every piece of written thing that I've released through any of my jobs has been edited beyond belief. It's not mine. What I've published, if it has a typo, if it has errors in syntax, if it has whatever, the good and the bad, it's me. It's mine. It's completely mine. And just to be able to do that, I know that I'm not the only person that had that. And to be able to share that connection with someone and to share that book with another person, why not?
Yeah. One thing I was going to say is that a lot of people forget that the most famous authors are the ones who have massive publishing houses behind them. And they've got advertising budgets in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, sometimes even the millions. Like for Brandon Sanderson's latest novel, I am certain his publisher dropped $1 million easy between book tour, between advertisements, all of that. And it hit the #1 on Amazon. It hit New York Times. Guy deserves his props because he's awesome. But then there's other authors who are awesome, but they don't have the time, they don't have the connections. Maybe their book isn't quite what the industry is looking for, so they're never going to get that $1 million royalty check, much less advertising budget. And so when we as authors, we look at our books and we say, okay, I love this. This is such a great book. How am I going to help people find out about it? We don't have those budgets, so we have to get creative. We have to think of other ways. And so as we look into these methods of promoting our own book, we realize that, alone we're going to sink, so we've got to work together, which is why people do podcasts together so that they can promote their books together. They can promote other authors' books so that you can, work together. Like they say, a rising tide lifts all ships. When my good friend hits a bestseller list with his book and he says, hey, all of these new thousands of fans that like my book, my other friend has another book you may like. That helps me. When I do the same with his, it's all of this interrelationship that makes indie authors work and often more successful in the long run than traditionally published authors, because we are having to do everything ourselves. And as we're doing everything ourselves, we're learning marketing and advertising and platform building and connecting and podcasting and formatting. I just formatted a paperback myself in Microsoft Word for the first time, something I didn't know up until a week ago. Like every part of being an indie author is learning so many new things. And so learning new things about working with other people, reaching out to fellow authors, and not only saying, how can you help me, but how can I help you? The more we work together, the bigger we get, the better we do. And so it's, in a way, that understanding, I think, has really slashed any risk of competitiveness. There's always the friendly competition. I tell one of my fellow author friends, oh, we're in the running for the same category or something. And so my book's higher than yours today, your book's higher than mine today. A fun, friendly competition, that sort of dynamic that makes things fun. But in the end, we're all working together because we're all trying to reach the same 230 million readers. Let's give that a number. Who knows how many there are. But we're also, so if we can work together and help each other, hey, I loved this book of my friends, read it, you're going to love it too. And then they say the same thing about mine. Everybody starts making sales, getting readers, and that's what helps all of us authors to grow beyond what those people with the $1 million marketing budgets could ever do on their own.
It's not even just after publishing either. It's before. For instance, just today, in fact, I've been banging my head against the wall for 3 days trying to write the blurb for my next book. And we all know how much fun that is. So I got it to where it was as good as I could get it, but it wasn't right. So what do? I reach out to some of my author friends and I say, hey, can you just take a look at this for me? Tell me where I'm going wrong. That kind of help too is so important because you're getting you're laying the brickwork for publishing so that it looks the best when it is published. And without being able to reach out to, your author community, who do you have to lean on for this?
That was one of the biggest things I noticed when I first came into the indie author community. I wanted to write something and I was sort of up and down about whether I should. And I was so lost as to how to go about the self-publishing process. And I remember being amazed when people were just saying, oh, just ask me questions. I'm happy to help. And so I really didn't expect that at all. And I thought, well, with other people's help, I don't feel so scared. I don't feel like it's impossible. And I always tell the same story, but I was totally lost when it came to ISBNs. And I wrote Joe like this email that was like, what is happening? Can you help me, please? I don't understand what they're saying. And he just broke it down for me with so much patience. And I never forgot that. But it's true. We're all willing to help someone new or someone that's been out there forever. It doesn't matter. We're all willing to help each other. And that is one of the biggest parts of the indie author community, that even before they're publishing, we're helping each other.
Can I just say, one of my favorite quotes of all time is that never doubt that a small group of people can change the world. You want to know why? Because it's the only thing that ever has. That is one of my all-time favorite quotes. And we are a small group. We are a small community, no matter what you look at. Just as Andy said, we're battling those guys who spend $1 million to advertise their stuff. And we hunker down together, but ultimately the reason why I think indies support other indies and more so than anything else is because, well, I'm older than most people on this panel and probably most people in the chat. And I can remember a time when you didn't have the internet, and believe it or not, there was no internet, kids, once upon a time. And you went to bookstores to buy books and physical places. And when you had friends and you read something you really loved, you handed them the book and you never saw it again because they handed it to somebody else and somebody else handed it on and so on and so forth. And when you liked it, when you liked the girl, what did you do for her? You made her a mixtape of songs that you listened to and liked. You recorded, you got your friend's VCR. It's a recording device that was prevalent in the early 70s and late 70s, early 80s. And you put a tape in there, it was about this big. And you put it in there and you get your friend's VCR and then you record the movie so that they could have the movie that you recorded because you were the only guy in the block that had HBO. And HBO was the only cable channel at the time. Yes, it's true. There was only one cable channel. And you put it in there and you recorded it and you handed it to that person. We were fans. We're fans. We're all fans. And when you like something, you give it to somebody and they give it to somebody else and we share and we love. And I can tell you truly, I mean, our world is so messed up right now. And there's a lot of garbage being spouted out there. Even artistry wise, indies have this passion because they remember being fans. They remember what they really love about writing and books and movies and music. And they remember that and they hold on to that and they try and do something that, they will remember. That needs to be celebrated. That needs to be heralded. And so that's why I do it. I just think the world of how passionate and beautiful you all are and I am so just like blown away by the words that you write and the words that you say and the things that you put together, the way that somebody makes a movie, it's unbelievable because I know how hard it is. And that's the other thing. We all know how hard it is to do this. This is not easy. And for anybody who thinks it's easy, they have another thing coming when they get involved in it, especially if you go indie. It is not easy. So why spend our time hating on one another, competing with one another, when we can help one another and love one another and make this a better world by doing that and making this a better place? I think that everybody on this panel and probably everybody in the chat would agree that's the aim of what we do and how we do it.
And I think that's one of the things that really drives the cooperation, that spirit of cooperation and between indie authors, because we know how hard it is. You know, I'm sure everyone here has struggled with marketing and advertising, just like I have. Katie, you were talking about struggling to write a blurb. Literally an hour ago, I was beating my head against the wall too, because I just finished a book. So yay, I finished a book. Crap, I have to write a blurb. You know, it's we know these trials that each other go through. So it's like, you're struggling with this, here, let me help you because I know exactly what that's like. It's sort of like having a friend. You know, it's that instant bond between brothers in the military or in the police force. You go through sort of shared trauma or shared traumatic experiences together. And so it bonds you. So what the trauma of writing a blurb is very, very real.
It's acute. No, it's so true though. Like when we do like Joe's Bar and stuff like that for B2B SciCon, it's just automatic bonding, you know, like you just step into it and you're not like nervous, you're not anything. You're just hanging out with friends. And even if you don't know these people, you're like, hi, I'm Christy, how you doing? And in no time you're connecting and cross-promoting and all kinds of things. And it's awesome. It's not the same in every community, but this one is just so strong that way.
I'm looking forward to meeting Aaron and Tom on Saturday. They're going to be at Jordan Con, and I didn't even know of the existence of Jordan Con and a lot of other cons and conventions. And I'm sure that Aaron is going to talk to me, and she's going to go, oh, what have you been doing the last 2 years, child? But still, you know, I just mentioned two names of people that I coincided on the bar with. We just met, and I don't want to say it's universal, though. I don't want to say that all indies are like this, because I honestly feel very fortunate of the group of people that I've come in contact with. Yeah, and the ridiculously talented people that I've come in contact with. You know, I read Christie's work. I read there's an indie author. I don't know if he's indie anymore, but at least when I read him, he was an indie author. His name is Roger Jackson. If you like horror, he's phenomenal. I read you, and in regards to prose, it's like, okay, I got to bust my ass and I got to up my game. It's not like, oh, they just wrote something better than me. And again, it's different genres: horror, historical fiction, and whatever the hell I write. And in regards to poetry, I read other people, and I always mention Anais Chevchenko. You know, apart from a really good friend, she writes things that really disarm you. And another really good friend of mine called Kate Evans, her book you can read in about 10 minutes. And I think in 10 minutes, that little book can change your life, because it's called Letters to the Heart. And it's her writing letters to her emotions, dear anger, and a one-page letter. And you read it and you go like, wow. And it's just an invitation to do that. And that's not stuff that you find, anywhere. It's just the people we gravitate. And I do this distinction because the people that I've met, I feel privileged to have met them. And I've been approached by people who are not as genuine or cool or talented or nice or genuine. I've had, it's not a ton, but I've had flakes that come and go like, oh, hey, how you doing? I see that, blah, blah, blah. And you can tell right away, like, this person wants something. And it's not that they want a friendship, they don't want a connection, they want something. And when you know, BS, you can smell it over a mile away, but bad intentions, it gets to a point where your radar goes like, I'm not sure we're gonna click that much.
Yeah, being genuine.
Go ahead, Chris.
I was just going to say that being genuine is one of the most important parts of being an indie author, I would say, and just being yourself. And like, that's the best social media advice I could actually give to anybody, just being you. And that's it. That's all I had to say.
That's something
Yeah,
that's echoed every single time we talk to an author too. It's just being real is what gets them new readers too. You know, they interact with the readers, and as an indie, you are so much closer to your readers, I think, than the traditional marketplace is. You really, on a day-to-day basis, you're interacting because you want to reach your readers. You want to create more than just a fan. You want to create that connection with them so that when the next book comes out, they're waiting in line to cheer you on.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, I found that genuine connection. I mean, that's really what storytelling is all about. It's about putting yourself into a book, whether it's something you believe, something you feel, some experience you've had, whatever it is. You have to be true to yourself when you're telling a story. And so that's what readers connect with. But it's also what you connect with when it comes to other authors. You know, my friend wrote a book. Okay, he has a totally different worldview, but hey, that's interesting. It helps me get to know him a little bit better. Oh, this other friend writes characters totally different. All of a sudden, this is a new way that I have of looking at characters. A great example of this is one of the breakout books of, I think, 2007 is Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Eames. This is one of the hottest fantasy books of last year. And I only read it this year because my co-host Stevie was just nattering on about it over and over until I finally read it. But when I read this book, I was like, this is an amazing story. I would never have been able to write it because the way the characters go are totally different than my perspective on things, my worldview. But there was this thing in the book that stuck out to me where one of the characters had another motivation, just some small thing that drove them on beyond the greater mission. And for me, it made that character so much more real. And so when I sat down to write my next book, I was like, okay, how can I do that? How can I give at least one of my characters this external motivation that drives them? And so every book, everything, every story we read is a learning experience. So for me, I feel like, okay, you're the competition. So I want to learn what you do and do it better, and not in a malicious way, but okay, we're both making great stories. Let's make the best story we can. I'm going to try to make my story better than yours. And I want you to make your story better than mine, so we keep making better and better and better stories.
Yeah, and better is unique to each person. So it's also like your version of better is going to be different than Joe's version of better. So we continue to get better and also unique. So where would you guys say that somebody who wants to start supporting fellow authors should get started? Would you say YouTube is the best place to start, or would you say start out elsewhere where it's maybe you meet some people first and then go into YouTube? What do you guys think?
Wherever they feel comfortable, whatever they think is the best medium for them. Everybody has a different opinion on whether Twitter's the best or Facebook's the best or Instagram's the best or YouTube's the best. I will say, though, I know so many people who have done YouTube and gotten hooked on it and just continue to do it. So I think YouTube is more of the heroine of the social media groups, because once you do it, you can't stop doing it. But, and Facebook kind of wanes a little bit. And Instagram is newer, so people are into that. I mean, there's even people who will say Goodreads is the best thing. It really... What I say is, you're on social media, be social, interact, however that makes you feel comfortable, wherever that makes you feel comfortable, that's where you should go. And that's how you should start. And everything else will fall into place. You'll start to feel like, okay, so I've tried Facebook. Maybe I'll go ahead and give Twitter a try. But if you're trying to be personable and sociable and be present, then just being social is where I would start. And you can even do that without social media. You could go and do a book festival, try it. I think the most important thing is to try, and just, we've all failed. We've all done something, or we have all not liked something that we've done. So, you have to have those experiences too.
Yeah, start small, go with what you're comfortable with. Just like Joe said, if Facebook, like that's where I live, is on Facebook. If Facebook is where you're comfortable, reach out to groups, make connections with people on Facebook. When we started Spilling Ink, it was me and another co-host who initially created the channel. But as we interviewed some guests, we actually got to know some of them. And now my primary co-host is actually somebody who started as a guest on our show. So, just start small, make those connections and run with them.
Yeah, and use each of the social medias the way they were meant to be used. You know, YouTube is there for long form content. If you want to post an hour-long YouTube video to Facebook or Twitter, you're probably going to be shut down. So you maybe take a snippet of the YouTube video and post it, you know, that 6-second clip to Twitter. Take a 1.5, 5-minute video, post it to YouTube. Take a still and post it to Instagram, you know, whatever. Like, you've got to learn to use the social medias the way they were meant to be used, learn the habits of the people who use it. But you can take advantage of everyone in their own way.
And I just want to be clear, I've never done heroin before, so I don't know that that's how it works, but I just, you know, I'm just making an analogy is all.
Earlier I mentioned that it took me a while to decipher how I wanted to do each social media or what I wanted to do in each one. And what I do on Instagram is different from what I do on Twitter, is different from what I do on Google Plus, is different from what I do on Facebook and the blog and YouTube. Each one is different, and it can be as complicated as an interview, either video or written, or as simple as oh, I took a picture with the book I'm reading, or I took a picture. I did a Bookstagram picture, something gorgeous of the book I'm reading. So people go like, oh, what a pretty picture. What book is that? It's all about deciphering how you want to do social media. I say that because for me, a long time ago, I made the decision to try to have a positive impact and try to do different and interesting things. And also, since I'm from advertising, you know, getting burned out is really easy. So anything that keeps creativity pumping is always a good thing. That's why I do something on Monday, something on Tuesday, something on Wednesday, something on Thursday, something on Friday. Apart from it busts your ass. Actually, I have sock it to me. I haven't put a picture on. So these are unicorn and narwhal socks. So even if it's on the panel, I did sock it to me. On Thursdays, I always tag people. And that's something. I tag people on social media either to give them exposure or connect people. Sometimes it doesn't have to be like putting a link to a book or a picture. Sometimes it's put the GIF of your favorite film and tag 5 people. Tag 5 people you think could get along. Be creative in the connections that you make and the things that you tag.
Yeah, definitely. And being real, that real connection. Like you just did the sock thing. It happened kind of just out of the blue, but my youngest daughter's in ballet right now. And every time she goes to ballet class, she wants to take a picture for her dad. And every time she pulls a crazy face. And so that's become like our weekly thing. It's that Zoe face is the tag that I've been using. And it's always a different crazy face. And I've got people who just look forward to seeing what crazy face she's going to make each week.
That's so cute. That's true, though. Tags don't just have to be like, oh, okay, cool, this is for me. Let me just tag whoever. You know, looking at both who would appreciate this, but also who hasn't met each other. Definitely, for sure. And I've done that before. It's actually 2 things I wanted to say, JD, where like sometimes I'll take a picture with one of the books I'm reading, or I'll do a book stack or something, and then I'll tag the authors so that they can get seen and people actually can find them easier. But I think I took a picture with your book once, JD, and I was told, I think it was in a private message, oh, your book is so nice looking. And I was like, that's not my book, that's JD's. Go here. You want to go there?
That's all on Tony. Tony, if for Only Human and for Dark Strands, that was him. The covers are either by Tony, by my wife, another friend called Francis, and I actually did the last one I did, but that's like a royalty. People are like, I love the cover, and I'm like, it's royalty free.
But they thought I had written it, not designed it. They thought I had written it, and I was like, go this way, you
People
know.
Don't read the captions.
No. But anyway, you know, all of that kind of stuff is cross promotion, even if it's not like, go check this person out. It's like tag, 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 tag. And then they say, who's this book by? They touch the picture, they click the picture, whatever. On Instagram, you're actually touching. And all these names pop up. And then they can go visit that person, you know? So like, there are just a million ways that you can do it, and you can get more creative. And there's just, oh, man, there's a million ways. There really are. It's very cool.
It is because of JD that my browser history on Amazon, every other picture is a sock, because I'm trying to find cool socks to actually participate in Sock It To Me, because I have crappy white socks or crappy plain socks.
But
So.
there's a lot of people who don't participate with socks. They use a mug, they use a collectible, they use pictures that they draw.
I'm taking it too literal, is what you're telling me?
No. The thing is that people go like, "Oh, I can't participate." And I'm like, sure, whatever. The idea is that, man, it's been a long week. It's Thursday. Do something that'll make you smile. You know, I share socks because it started off as a small rebellion in my shoes when I was in a job I hated.
Mm-hmm. You said, I think the rule is put something you love, right? Just anything that makes you happy or that you love.
Yeah. Well, you know, if it's, I think the only requirement is for it to be quirky in some way, just so that, you know, it's the difference between someone going like, you know, why is someone sharing a picture of a ham sandwich, and then someone who, I don't know, took a ham sandwich and, you know, cut out like a happy face on it, you know, anything so that the people that are connected can see something on their stream that isn't, oh my God, nuclear war, oh my God, famine, oh my God, the water here is tainted. You know, it's trying to put something that'll make people go like, you know what, life can be difficult, but at least I can smile.
And on that note, let's tell everyone where you can find us and make you guys connect with us, because as you can see, we will definitely answer your questions and do our best to be there, just be there as people, you know, and that's, as we've been saying, what it's really all about. So anyway, stay tuned, because after everyone tells you where you can find them, you're going to hear more about the next episode of The Writer's Edge and Go Indie Now. So let's go in reverse. How about you first, Andy? Tell us where we can find you.
All right, so I am on all social media platforms, Facebook, Amazon, my website as Andy Peliquin. I also Twitter terribly as Andy Peliquin. You can find the Fantasy Fiends podcast on Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube. I'm sure Stevie's going to get pissed at me for not saying all the rest of them, but I don't know the rest of them. He handles all that. I get the guests, and I come up with the topics, and I organize everything, and he does all the business side of things. But you can find us on the Fantasy Fiends podcast on YouTube. And
it's Thursdays at 9 o'clock Eastern, right?
It's 5:30 Pacific time, 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern.
There we go. Okay, thanks. It's a good one. It's a lot of fun, guys. You should check it out. And next is Joe.
You can find me at goindynow.com is my website. Guys, I'm so used to not giving out my links because I'm just usually the host. So you can search for Go Indie Now, all one word, Go Indie Now in YouTube, and you should find my YouTube channel. I'm at Twitter at JoeDream73, Instagram at Joe. I just changed it today. It's not Joe ID Film 73 anymore. It's Go Indie Now. So you can find me at Go Indie Now on Instagram, and Facebook.com/Go Indie Now is our Facebook page. We have a think tank as well. That's where all the people who like Go Indie Now go, and we converse. So if you're not a member of the think tank, come join us. I would love for you to join us. I never add anybody. That's my one caveat. I'll never add anybody because I don't like being added to groups that I didn't apply for, so I don't do that. So if you want to be in the group, you have to join it. I will approve you. Well, most of you I'll approve. No, I'm just kidding. All of you I would approve, of course. But yeah, no. So that's the Go Indie Now think tank. If you go to our our Facebook page, you'll find it. And you can friend me, Joe Compton, on Facebook. I love for you to be my friend. I don't want to be your author. I just want to be your friend. So.
Yeah, he's such a nice guy. Joe. Okay. It's JD that came up with your name, The Godfather, right? Yeah. JD.
I saw the cap and I was like, he's the Godfather. And he's like, I'm gonna run with it. And
he started the whole thing.
He scored it all. He scored all the touchdowns.
You're next, JD.
Sorry. It's pretty easy. JD Estrada Writer. You can look for me on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. What am I missing? Facebook, did I mention? I don't know. The blog is jdestradawriter.blogspot.com. If you wanna laugh, by all means, check out the hashtag Double O Bananas. Apparently, that is one of the favorites of people. If you want to join in the sock fun, I always do hashtag Sockatumi and hashtag Sock Family. And I do a lot of random stuff just to have fun. As for my books, you can find them on Amazon. I'm slowly but surely putting them on Drafted Digital. Digital. That's one of those words. And just trying to go wide so that more people can read me and have access to me. I also, last thing is that I do Estrada crates. Strata crates is basically, instead of an owl crate or a loot crate or a whatever crate, you can get an Estrada crate. I try to make it as personalized as possible. There's a variety that goes from $20 to $100. The higher you go, the more bang for your buck. You will get a personalized letter that will not be a boilerplate, and you're gonna get my book signed. And yeah, you can actually check me out on Pinterest. That's like where I store everything. I have a SoundCloud that actually has some songs I actually recorded in a studio. And if you actually buy my books on the Puerto Rican website, Libro 787, I will give you an ebook, a free ebook, whatever you want, and a free MP3, whatever you want. That's downloadable. Because it's a Puerto Rican a business. They launched right after the hurricane. They're busting their chops and they're doing a great job.
Awesome. And JD has a lot of books out, so, get on that. You want the free books. And then you're going to get obsessed. And next is Katie.
Oh, my turn already? Okay. I actually live on Facebook, so if you want to interact with me directly, look for me on Facebook. I'm there almost all day, every day. Look for Katie Salidas, KatieSalidas. My website is katiesalidas.com, and you can also find Spilling Ink on Podbeam or YouTube. I believe we're getting close to getting onto iTunes soon, I hope. Very shortly, but look for Spilling Ink Show on either platform, and you should find us there.
Great. And you guys probably know where to find me, but I am Christy Stratus, host of The Writer's Edge. You can find me here, of course, and on thewritersedgeshow.com. The Writer's Edge Show also has a group on Facebook. And as for me as an author, you can find me at christystratus.com. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Pinterest. Just look for me. I'm in most places. So I hope to see you guys over there. And I do want to say one more thank you to Fiction Atlas Press. I really appreciate the sponsorship. It was absolutely fabulous of you to donate your time and your everything. This is Courtney Cannon. In case you guys don't know, she's a real sweetheart. So go down into the links and find her, and don't be shy to message her, because she is really easy to talk to and a really good person. So the next panel that we're going to have is going to be Wednesday, May 23rd at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So I'm just flipping it on its head a little bit earlier than usual. And that time, in the future, we're going to be discussing where sci-fi meets fantasy. So you don't want to miss that one. And tomorrow, you got to make sure that you make it to Joe's Go Indie Now live panel. And that is going to be the art of short storytelling. This is one that I am particularly interested in. And I don't remember if I helped suggest it or if I requested it, but I was one of multiple people who said, I want to know more about the art of short storytelling, and also what to do with those short stories once you tell them. So definitely tune into that. I believe that is 9 o'clock tomorrow night, Eastern Time. And you can, of course, follow Joe Go Indie Now on Facebook to be sure. So thank you guys so much for being here. Thanks for all your participation, and we will see you again on May 23rd. Bye.